In 1995, I left my pregnant wife at home and asked the one man I trusted most to look after her while I traveled for work. My best friend promised me he would visit her every Thursday. He kept that promise for 19 years. I thought those visits were proof of loyalty. I never imagined they were hiding the biggest betrayal of my life. And when a doctor finally told me something about my son, I realized I had spent nearly 2 decades protecting people who had been lying to me. My name is Richard Hale, and in 1995, I believed I had two things in this world that could never betray me: my wife, Claire, and my best friend, Thomas. Claire was 7 months pregnant with our first child when my company sent me away for several weeks. Before leaving, I stood in our small kitchen, holding Thomas by the shoulder. I said, "Please look after Claire while I'm gone." Thomas looked directly into my eyes and promised, "Richard, you never have to worry about her." Every Thursday, he came. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he repaired something around the house. Sometimes he simply sat with Claire and talked. When I returned, Claire always told me how helpful he had been. I was grateful. I was blind. Years passed. Our son, Daniel, grew into a quiet and intelligent young man. The results suggest there may be a biological discrepancy. I couldn't breathe. I asked what he meant. The doctor carefully explained that the genetic evidence did not support me being Daniel's biological father. For 19 years, I had called that boy my son. I had taught him to ride a bicycle, stayed awake beside him when he was sick, paid his school fees, held his hand at graduation, and now a medical report was telling me that blood had never connected us. That evening, I went home carrying the heaviest silence of my life. I didn't confront Claire. I didn't confront Thomas. Instead, I started looking through old documents, and then I found something hidden inside an old box. A photograph from 1995. Claire was standing beside Thomas. On the back were 5 words. The results suggest there may be a biological discrepancy. I couldn't breathe. I asked what he meant. The doctor carefully explained that the genetic evidence did not support me being Daniel's biological father. For 19 years, I had called that boy my son. I had taught him to ride a bicycle, stayed awake beside him when he was sick, paid his school fees, held his hand at graduation, and now a medical report was telling me that blood had never connected us. That evening, I went home carrying the heaviest silence of my life. I didn't confront Claire. I didn't confront Thomas. Instead, I started looking through old documents, and then I found something hidden inside an old box. A photograph from 1995. Claire was standing beside Thomas. On the back were 5 words. Thursday changed everything for us. My hands started shaking. I remembered every Thursday, every excuse, every visit, every time Thomas told me, "She's like family to me." Suddenly, the past looked completely different, but I still needed the truth. So I arranged a proper DNA test through a certified laboratory. The result confirmed what the doctor had warned me about. Daniel was not my biological son. I sat alone that night and cried, not because I hated Daniel. I could never hate him. He was innocent. He had never asked for any of this. My anger belonged somewhere else. The next morning, I called Thomas. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten him. I simply said, "Come to my house Thursday evening." He arrived exactly as he had for 19 years. But this time, I had 3 documents waiting on the table: the photograph, the DNA report, and a copy of an old letter I had discovered in Claire's belongings. Thomas looked at them. His face changed. He knew. After 19 years, he finally knew that I knew. Claire eventually admitted the truth. The betrayal had begun before Daniel was born. Thomas had crossed a line that could never be erased. But my revenge wasn't violence. It wasn't destruction. It was something much colder. I walked away. I removed Thomas from every part of my life. I stopped paying the debts I had secretly covered for him. I changed my will. And I made one decision that shocked everyone. Kept Daniel as my son. Because fatherhood had never been about blood to me. It had been about every morning I woke up for him. Every sacrifice I made. Every time I chose him. Years later, Thomas tried to apologize. I listened quietly. Then I said, "You took 19 years from me, Thomas, but you didn't take my son. That is the one thing you could never steal." I closed the door. And for the first time in 19 years, Thursday was just Thursday. No secrets. No lies. No waiting. Just peace. Strong ending. Sometimes revenge isn't destroying the person who betrayed you. Sometimes revenge is living so peacefully without them that they finally understand what they lost. Thomas stole the truth from me for 19 years, but he could never steal the love I had built with my son, because blood may create a family, but love, sacrifice, and loyalty are what make someone a father.